Naidoo here, and I'm live series to you today with a different set of amazing individuals. So I hope you'll stick around, and I will be saving this conversation to my feed. I do want to take just a minute to introduce the amazing human beings who are joining me. First, I'm Dr. Naidoo. I am the author of This Is Your Brain on Food. I am a nutritional psychiatrist, and I use my platform to really help others feel emotionally better through the use of healthy whole foods and nutrition. But today, I'm being joined by Gabriella Wright. Now, Gabriella is part of the Never Alone, co-founder of the Never Alone Foundation as part of the Chopra Foundation, and we've had a conversation before, and I'm going to ask her to introduce herself. She is a wonderful human being, and we're going to be joined by two individuals from the military. Dr. Theresa Larson, aka Dr. T, has become one of the healthcare and fitness world's most sought after experts on movement health. Dr. Larson earned her doctorate in physical therapy from the University of St. Augustine in San Diego, California, a former Marine Corps engineer, officer, and combat veteran. So she'll be joining us shortly. And Jon Macaskill is also joining us. He is a retired Navy SEAL commander. He turned to meditation, mindfulness, and human performance as a leader in this field. Like I said, he is a retired Navy SEAL commander, and he really turned to this area, and I'm so excited to hear more about his passion for helping people and organizations become better versions of themselves. So let's get started and start to invite people in. So, awesome. All right. Hey, Dr. T, how are you?
Hi, Dr. Uma.
It's lovely to meet you both. Hi, Jon. Great to
Hello,
meet you.
Uma. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm just waiting on Gabriella, but in the meantime, I would love it. Firstly, thank you for joining this Instagram live series, which is really about helping to change the conversation around our mental well-being. And I'm so grateful for your service to us and for taking the time today.
Of course.
So ladies first, Dr. Theresa Larson, tell us a little bit about what you do. I did a short introduction, but I would like for that too.
Of course, thank you. I'm very excited to be on. So I am a mother, a wife. I run a human performance company called Movement RX, where we run mindfulness and movement experiences that are virtual right now for people. And basically the goal is to create emotional and physical freedom with people, because oftentimes I want to bring them people the low-hanging fruit of medicine, because for me, I needed that when I was in the Marine Corps and getting out. So yeah, I actually, it's interesting reading about your background too, Dr. Uma. I had an eating disorder when I was in the Marine Corps, which is very unique. It's actually not uncommon, but not talked about. So yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing on that. And we'll come back to that in a moment. Hi, Gabriella. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. How are you, Dr. Uma?
Hi, Theresa.
Hello.
Well, thank you.
So lovely to be here. What a collective of the minds.
I'm so excited. So Gabriella, take a moment to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do. We've just been doing introductions so far.
Lovely. Well, I am on the journey of discovering my own self. So I may be named Gabriella in this life, but my soul is unraveling into its Dharma, and we all know what Dharma means is what is our soul's mission. And I feel that in this life, there are many traumatic events that we could quote unquote say that have shaped my life. And through these traumatic events, I've tried to make a difference. And one being the loss of my sister to suicide, which was very unexpected, as Dr. Uma knows, but really led me down to the path of a deeper listening. Not only within myself, but with the community, and thanks to the association with Dr. Deepak Chopra and Poonacha Machaya, and a wonderful community and experts like yourself, Dr. Uma, to really congregate and democratize access to not only resources, but also open our minds to more resources on how to go about mental health. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you. And thank you for being here and for, sharing so openly about your life and your mission and what's brought you here today. That brings me to Jon. I am so excited, Jon. I've never spoken to a Navy SEAL like in real life before, so you can only imagine.
Love it.
Well, it's an honor to be here with you three beautiful ladies and to discuss the mental health and wellness, because it is something I'm so passionate about. So as you mentioned in the introduction, I am a retired Navy SEAL, but I'm turned mindfulness and meditation teacher. And like Gabriella, I'm also on a journey trying to find who I truly am. I'm a father, a husband. I have 3 young children, and I live out in Colorado Springs. However, right now I am sitting about 25 feet from Theresa in Durango, and we're both on the same call.
Hey, the lighting looks great.
He really helped me with the lighting, actually. It was all Jon.
So yeah,
That's
I got
amazing.
introduced to mindfulness and meditation towards the latter part of my military career, and it was introduced to me because I was struggling with my own stress and anxiety and survivor's guilt from the battlefield, and I had my own dark thoughts about different options, and finally a counselor recommended mindfulness and meditation, and I attribute it 100% to saving, not just changing my life for the better, but quite honestly saving my life. So I want to share that with as many people as I can.
Absolutely. That's amazing. And was it, Jon, that you sought counseling, or what was your path forward and into mindfulness? Because I do think that's such a gap in how we can tap into greater resilience in mental health and in brain health, right?
Definitely. Absolutely. Yes. I sought support, and I was doing talk counseling for years, and I think that definitely helped. It helped a lot. But I didn't know what to talk about in those sessions until I started practicing meditation and mindfulness, and some of the things that I had really boxed up and put away for years and thought that I would deal with them later. Well, I just didn't deal with them until I started practicing meditation and mindfulness. And then I was able to open up those boxes and pull out the pieces and parts that were in there and really analyze and talk to the counselors about them. And I think that's where the big change happened, was now I knew what to talk about and what to address.
Absolutely, and to identify. That makes me want to ask Gabriella, with the Never Alone Foundation and your work with that, do you all, is there a way that, and I'm uneducated about this, I'm asking all of you actually, Gabrielle as well as Jon and Dr. T, is there a way that mindfulness is now more formally incorporated into anything in the military, in terms of training or anything like, is it accepted or?
Well, yeah, that I would not be able to answer, but what I can say from the foundation's perspective is that through an AI chatbot that we've introduced called Hero, that works specifically for veterans, we have introduced mindfulness tools within the resources that the chatbot Hero uses. So
amazing.
Yes, so we have integrated that, but in terms of direct military, Dr. T and Jon.
I think Jon knows more about that.
So Gabrielle, where can people find that? The chatbot?
You can find that actually on Veterans Path. We worked with this organization, and that's actually how we were connected also here, all of us. And so we activated that, and it's on the basis of what Peewee uses, except it's specialized to the language of veterans and using a certain different mindful approach, whereas Peewee is more broad scale.
Well, thank you for letting us know about that resource. But Jon, do you have an answer for us?
I would just like to comment on Veterans Path and the chatbot Hero. I was working with Veterans Path when that was introduced through Punacha and the Chopra Foundation, and that connection there. And Veterans Path is continuing to do fantastic things for veterans, both via the chatbot and in-person retreats, and with some of their other partners virtually for veterans. Amazing. But as far as in the military, meditation for years was thought of as kind of a woo-woo practice, and military members weren't really accepting it as something that they could bring into their own life. But now it is being taught more formally at both training when you first come into the military, and then throughout. in different forms. Some of them are calling it meditation. Some of them are calling it breath work, just because of the stigma the word meditation has around it.
Right.
But breath work has helped, people both process stress, anxiety, depression, but also allows them to perform better on the battlefield. And when I say perform better on the battlefield, I don't necessarily mean as a warrior, going out there and killing people.
Yes.
But I mean processing what's happening on the battlefield, so that they can make mindfulness, so that they can make more informed decisions, maybe not escalate to the battle of armed, or to the level of armed conflict if they don't need to, and quite honestly save a lot of lives on both sides. So it's definitely being employed,
as well as potentially save their own as they recovering from some dark times as they come off the battlefield, right? Whatever their level of service is. So thank 100%. You for sharing on that. There's so many questions I could ask all of you, and certainly please jump in as ask questions as well. But Dr. T, let me turn back to you, because I think you were kind enough to share something very personal about an eating disorder. And I think that is probably not only in life, generally, quite often overlooked and swept under the rug. And I can imagine the same in the military, because quite often there's an individual, sometimes a young person in a family, and it goes unrecognized or unnoticed. Not that it isn't love or taking, the person not necessarily neglected, but they are struggling with something behind closed doors, whether it's a bulimic aspect, or suddenly a parent notices the child has lost weight, or even this happens in adults as well. Can you share anything about how you got yourself through while you were in the military?
Yes, and I'm very much thankful to be able to talk about it now in a more empowered way. But so I grew up in a family of all males. I was raised by a single father, 2 older brothers who actually both were in the Marines. One was enlisted, one was an officer. But I was a collegiate athlete, very, perfectionist focused. Like I had to be the best. So the Marine Corps was a great step for me after college. It was competitive, I could dominate if I wanted to. And so it fed into the culture of how I was raised too. However, it came at a cost. I didn't know how to handle at a young age, 22, the stressors that I was up against. And I'd always found that, restricting food or abusing exercise and all the things that went into my eating disorder, I didn't actually acknowledge it as an eating disorder at the time, but was what I could control. Right. And everything else was really hard for me to understand and also deal with. And so the bulimia, unfortunately, was pretty rampant throughout my entire Marine Corps career, but no one could see it. Right. I was deployed. I was doing things in combat, but that women weren't really allowed to do or supposed to be doing. And I was honored to be able to do it. However, it came at a cost. When I came home at the end of the day, or in the middle of the night after a mission, I was behind closed doors doing what I needed to do. And what did, honestly, and it's, beautiful I can talk about this,
it is.
What helped me the most was, yes, I did get, outpatient care, but a Marine Corps sister of mine introduced me to a mindfulness meditation coach. And I ended up diving deep into that. And what was so beautiful about it was, as the symptoms of bulimia had stopped after a while, I learned how to actually relax and create calm in my mind. And like Jon talked about on the battlefield, creating that pause of reacting. And I learned how to be very connected to myself, which was the most powerful tool for me. But there is, of course, a lot that goes into disorders, addictions. But I have to say the ability to slow down and understand who I was. And I'm on a journey, all of you, knowing myself. But the mindfulness meditation has been one of the most powerful tools to help me do that. And it helped me find Jon, actually. And I work with Jon, who's in the next room. But it's brought me to people like you who are diving deep and learning how to live in the now and helping others. So I hope that was answering your question.
Absolutely. No, that's super helpful. And I think what I especially like about it, Theresa, is that, each person has their own path. Someone may need to actually join a residential program. They might do a deeper dive into something, but everyone finds their own path forward, because the thing that is often ignored is that these are very serious conditions, because they can reach a point where your metabolism is off, your electrolytes are off, and you can have, from a cardiac issue to a renal issue, your body can collapse physically.
Yes.
And I think that that's why it's so important just for us to bring the conversation forward with less shame. And that's why I really appreciate you raising that, because I think that I can only imagine in the military where, the facade is the strength and the bravado, which of course helps all of you guys protect us. There's also a downside to that. And I think where mindfulness can play a role is very key.
Well, I'll say real quick, I'll add in really quick
please.
that while I shared that part of it, there was so much shame. And it was the hardest thing for me to do. And I've shared this with Jon, and I actually have written about it, is that asking for help. For the first time, I was medevaced from Iraq, from Fallujah to home. And that entire journey was, I still get choked up about it, because people look at me like, what's wrong with you? You have a hard time eating brownies? Like, you have a hard time going to this, eat. And no one, I was this, I had to be this perfect Marine, right? Do no wrong. And then all of a sudden I asked for help and something was wrong with me. Now, I am very thankful to be from the Marine Corps, and I love the Marine Corps. However, there's society still doesn't really quite understand some of these addictions that we deal with. And so by no means was this asking for help journey a cakewalk. And things that you talked about, Gabriella, and things that Jon's talked about, it's not a cakewalk, and you have to go up against people who are disappointed in you, and they're like, what's wrong with you? And they don't really understand. So it was not easy.
And I think that's such an important point, because shame is just such a big part of helping to destigmatize mental health. And in fact, I had this amazing conversation yesterday with Dr. Daniel Aben, and he was talking about something I really agree with, which is even the word mental makes it so stigmatizing, and I think that just rethinking how we also talked about the fact that the new DSM-5 manual, the 5TR, is coming out, and we sort of don't agree with it, because it just doesn't capture human experience. It's checkboxed, and yes, we need it for certain aspects of diagnosis, but it doesn't capture the human experience, which is what we're talking about. But that being said, it seems like a theme of what has been brought forward in this conversation is definitely mindfulness. And it's so funny, because I was listening to something on Audible, and this book was talking about how Oprah was really given a hard time, and she started talking about mindfulness, and she, the press gave her a hard time. She's thought of as, oh, well, she's going, there was a comment, and this is a quote, she's going all spiritual on us. Another comment was, oh, she's gone all woo-woo. When you think back, people like Oprah, Deepak Chopra, many people have really had to bring this movement forward, because either the word meditation was associated with a certain religious or spiritual background, and it wasn't comfortable. I actually have started my practice. I use the word mindfulness because I'm Hindu. If I say meditation, I've been asked by someone, more than one individual who I was counseling, well, do you expect me to do a Hindu prayer? And it's people don't. So
slightly different. I'm going to get my puja tools out, and we're going to, bring in Ganesha just before, the practice.
So I had to not laugh, because I had to take a moment and realize the person was just being thrown off by the word, my background, and we respond to everything in our environment, so that's important. So I actually use the word mindfulness all the time, even though what I practice is meditation, mostly because of that acceptance and being able to speak more easily about it. But I would love to hear thoughts from Gabriella and Jon as well.
Yes. Go ahead, Jon, and then
Sure.
because I've got so many angles right now, so I want to hear your
she's going to get her puja ready. And
yes, exactly. I've got all the tools here in the back.
For those of you listening, puja is, a form of Hindu prayer, so it's just
and respectively, I love it so much. I actually live next to a temple, so I'm going to go there this afternoon.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So, I whenever I lead meditation, I always try precede it with, hey, this is not a religious practice. It may be spiritual, but it's not religious, and this is not going to supplant your religious beliefs. I personally am Christian, and I practice meditation in Christianity. And I mean, the question I often get from fellow Christians is the meditation replacing your Christianity? Are you practicing another religion's practice? And I always say, well, that's like saying that by practicing kindness, that I'm practicing a Christian exclusive practice. By practicing love for others, that I'm practicing a Jewish practice only. That's not. It's not. You know, meditation is not Hindu. It's not. Exactly. It's non-denominational. Yeah. And then personally, what I say is that when I pray and when I read my personal scriptures, I like for my mind to be settled, and I like for me to be able to hear what my higher God is saying to me. And I'm not going to hear that if my mind is all over the place thinking about things that I screwed up yesterday or things that I have for work tomorrow. If my mind is on the here and now, then I can pray properly about what I need, what my family needs, what I'm thankful for, and I can read and hear the word of my higher power. So I feel that meditation for me fits directly into my religious studies, but it doesn't replace them. Honestly, I think it augments them. And it makes them, so
that was really
my thoughts on that.
well explained, and thank you for saying that, because people, you know, I think it's important for people to understand how they can do this in so many different ways. Gabriella, thank you, and you were going to say something as well, I wanted to touch on PTSD.
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you, Theresa, for bringing up I would say the mental element of a food disorder, quote unquote, because that's really a hidden part of a woman's life, and it is so overlooked and not understood, and it really is connected to one's inner mental space, and it's something that is it is mental health. And it's not separate. And it's like, to link in what you were saying, Dr. Uma, is when you receive the book and all of this, and it's not mental health. There's still some disagreements about how we go about it. And what we do at the foundation is that, at the Chopra Foundation, we look at the mind-body as a process. There is no separation there. It's a process in consciousness that is constantly moving, that is constantly being fed by different elements, and that we then express ourselves through this mind-body process. So for me, there is no separation. And it's so interesting because, I mean, we've obviously, the biggest thing in mental health, quote unquote, right now is getting through this COVID crisis, dealing with PTSD of isolation, loneliness, trauma that is coming to the surface because we're so isolated and not communing anymore. And therefore, through communion, we can experience healing. But there is also the eating disorders. And I've just noticed personally that I have some very dear friends who are grown women in my life, and they're not looking very well. And I'm trying to find solutions to speak about it, but also by being respectful, because these are women who are older than me. And I know I can feel what you just said, what's happening behind hidden doors. And it is so delicate. And Dr. Uma, food, mental health, mental space, there's so much work to do in this space of helping women, because it's not just a teenage thing to look nice in a picture.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's all age groups.
It's all age groups. And I really wasn't aware of that until I realized my two dearest close friends are going through that right now. And it's literally two elephants in the room, and nobody is daring to say anything. So I would love to have a little insight into that, just because the body is not separated from the mind. So that's a fact. That's just something we got to, really, and I think, Dr. Uma, how you're going about it is the food, nutritional psychiatry is what feeds the body. We are made of food in Ayurveda. So that's the Vedic science. So we need to understand that is also, our mind is made of food as well. So all of these processes and bringing awareness to these processes, I think, is so important, like what we're doing today, but getting really in the refined tooling of that.
Absolutely. I think you raised such an important point, Gabriella, because there are geriatric eating disorders, and I've seen them. Wow. So it's really on all age groups, and we tend to think of younger women. It is more common in women than men, but it does exist in men. Eating disorders is real in men, all types, and it is across all demographics and all age groups. So I think it's sometimes so hard to open up that conversation, right? Because you know that the person is struggling, and I'm not sure that I have an easy solution, but I know creating space for them to open up to you is one way. Sharing on mindfulness in a different context that may help them, like Theresa found her way forward through mindfulness. But not to switch topics. I just feel there's so many important things to cover, and I only have a few minutes. I hope you guys will come back. Maybe we can do a part 2, because I think there's so many important topics to cover. But one of the things that is coming through on the feed is a lot about PTSD, and I don't want to ignore that. That's a huge thing that happens, and I feel that mindfulness again, nutrition again, all of these things it's not the only way, but are definitely ways to help. Do any of you have some thoughts about that from your own experience, from that of a colleague, to share as we wrap up?
Jon.
I'll jump in too. Yeah, I mean that's what I struggle with personally, was post-traumatic stress, and I don't like to call it a disorder, because I think that it is truly a natural reaction to extreme trauma. Yeah, that's a natural thing.
You're right.
You see, you're exposed to that, you're going to react a certain way. So I was exposed to trauma, and my body and my mind, and I say body and mind because I do think there's that connection there, both reacted to that. And I held that in. It was inside of me, and I tried to treat it through alcohol. I tried to treat it through, working out a whole lot, to probably an unhealthy amount. I tried to treat it through counseling, which did help. But again, it was just boxed up inside me to where I couldn't even find it. I didn't even know what the root cause of it was. And then the meditation helped. Just when I sat in silence and did some deep introspective work, that stuff bubbled up. And that's when I knew what it was that was causing that angst, that was causing that stress, that was causing that deep, dark depression. And then I was able to go to the talk counseling and process it properly. And then I was able to truly deal with the stress, the trauma that I had been exposed to. And then I've got to say, I run a podcast called Men Talking Mindfulness, and we recently had Dr. Rob Kelly on, who's an addiction specialist. And he said that, a lot of people ask him what the gateway drug is, and he always expects people to expect him to say marijuana. Marijuana is the gateway drug. But he says trauma is your gateway drug, whatever that trauma may be. It may be from the battlefield, it may be from sexual abuse, it may be from physical abuse, it may be from when you were little and your parents talked harshly to you about the food that you're eating, or how much food that you're eating, and how you process that at different levels of age and maturity. So your trauma, everybody processes trauma differently, and a lot of people minimize their own trauma when they say, well, I didn't get, like Theresa was saying, when she got medevaced from Iraq, people were saying, wait, you've got an eating disorder? What is that? That you can't minimize that, because we process trauma in different ways. So how we get out of that trauma is also different modalities. I won't say mindfulness and meditation is the cure-all, but it is definitely helpful. So if you haven't tried it, I highly recommend it.
Yes, absolutely. I want to pick up on something you said there, Jon, because I think minimizing someone else's experience is one of the harshest things you can do. Wow. I respect if you don't understand something and, saying to someone, well, what's the problem? You can't eat a brownie.
is really missing the forest for the trees. So I think that, just having a moment of grace with someone who's suffering, you may not know, no one expects you to have the training or a depth of understanding if you don't have exposure to it, but always just kind of remember to, be respectful of other people. I'm very clear about that on this platform that I have on Instagram, because people who are rude just don't, people who make comments on our stories or what we're sharing, which we are sharing, openly with the world, I exclude them because they just don't belong to this community. So I think it's the same thing in mental health and destigmatizing it. If you don't know, ask what the problem is. And I think that I thank you all. I would love to invite you back to part 2. I'll be in touch to bug you and to see if that's possible. I just think there's so many more topics we can cover. And for those of you listening, I thank you. I thank you, Dr. Theresa, Dr. T. I thank you, Jon, and I thank you, Gabriella, for all of the independent work that you're doing in this field to help people, but also collectively to really help this mission. And of course, like Gabriella said, there's so much more we need to do. So let's join arms.
Yes.
But
Thank
please,
you so
if you
much,
have any
Dr. Uma.
passing.
It was
Thank
so
you.
lovely to see you all, Jon and Theresa.
You as well.
So
Thank
lovely.
you, Gabriella.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Dr.
It
Uma.
really was great. It's awesome to see you all.
Take
Thank you
care,
so
everyone.
much for taking the time. Take
Of
care.
course.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.